talk debt, shall we? The clock is ticking, 2 weeks until that August 2nd deadline, until the nation would potentially default. And I want to welcome Senator Orrin Hatch, a Republican of Utah, to be on with me today. He is here in the midst of this raging debate about a potential default. As I mentioned, the federal government here now 14 days away, sir. Senator Hatch, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Glad to be with you.
Let me ask you this. What do you make of the announcement? We heard from the president, 2 hours or so ago, that the Senate Gang of Six, bipartisan, has resurrected itself and has sent him a debt reduction package he can work with. He mentioned it's time to talk turkey, and this could be some good news. Sir, is this cause for hope?
Well, you never know. I think, the intentions of the Gang of Six may be on the side of the angels, but the devil's always in the details. We have a rough draft or outline of what they'd like to do, and I'd just like to ask the president, where is his idea on this? And he's indicated he's quite interested in this, so that's a good sign right there.
He has, and as you know, Gang of Six, as you know, bipartisan. You have folks from both sides of the aisle trying to hammer this thing out. But I have to tell you, Senator Hatch, there are folks out there, including conservatives, saying President Obama has already offered Republican the deal of their dreams, $4 trillion in debt reduction, primarily through massive, I hear you laughing, massive cuts to the size of the federal government. Hang on, stay with me here, because I want to read to you. This is from the opinion pages of New York Times this morning. This is from conservative columnist David Brooks. In an article he entitled "The Road Not Taken," and I just want to read part of it. He says, Republicans will come to regret this missed opportunity. He goes on, fortunately, there are still practical conservatives in the GOP who believe in results, who believe in intelligent compromise. So, Senator Hatch, that sounds like you, right? You have a reputation of intelligent compromise. At this moment, is your Republican Party able to compromise? Because, conservative David Brooks here from the New York Times is kind of wondering that himself.
Well, we'll have to see. Our party doesn't want to raise taxes because we think we're taxed enough. We think taxes at this time. We agree with the president that he said last December that you don't raise taxes during a bad recession like this or a bad economic time like this. And I agree with that particular statement. But ever since, all he seems to want to do is raise taxes. Well, the way the Gang of Six tries to get around this is by doing away with what are called tax expenditures. Well, that's not as easy as you think, because tax expenditures are things like charitable deductions, things like home mortgage interest payments, 401k plans, health care given to you by your employer. And these are not little things that they were enacted by the Congress because they were needs that were necessary in our society. But I'm open to really looking at this, and I want to compliment the Gang of Six because they met for months and months now. They've tried their very best, but basically all they have is an outline. And like I say, a lot of that's got to come to the Finance Committee, where I'm the Republican leader, and the devil is in the details. We're going to have to look at it, see what we can do. By the way, the president's $4 trillion in hoped-for cuts, we learned that back in 1990 when we agreed to tax increases that occurred immediately, and then all of the so-called spending reductions were to occur over time. None of them came about.
Well, I do want to talk a little bit about raising taxes and looking at the Clinton administration and sort of what happened, and I do want to go there in a moment. But I do want to talk about this impending deadline, right? So we're staring essentially over the cliff at a potential government default, and maybe that's business as usual here, i.e., compromise, not beginning to look. Is it not beginning to look more appealing by comparison? Because a lot of folks are saying the current, my way or the highway, have got to have it all climate in Washington. It is really unworthy of the USA and makes us look like a banana republic.
Well, I think that is true. I don't think it should be my way or the highway. But, when the president talks $4 trillion, he doesn't outline what those are. I presume a lot of that will come from defense and from a lot of programs that Republicans would have difficulty with. Now, I will say this for the Gang of Six. Under one interpretation of dynamic scoring, it would be over $4 trillion, the savings. Under another baseline, there are at least two baselines in that in their recommendation. Under the other baseline, it would be about $3.7 trillion. So either way, at least they're making suggestions, but it's going to have to be up to the Finance Committee and the Ways and Means Committee, I guess, in the House, the Finance Committee in the Senate, to figure out how do you do all this and who actually is going to have to pay for this.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, I just know, and I've talked to a number of Republicans on this show, and they talk about, you know, raising taxes and how that's a job killer. But I do want to point out, as I did just last week with Senator Brown, that raising taxes did not kill jobs during the Clinton administration. You know the history. Bill Clinton raised taxes. The economy created 23 million new jobs. Just take a look at the numbers. An 8-year post-war record. Then George W. Bush, he cut taxes, created, there's a number, 3 million jobs. So those are real numbers. They come to us from the Census Bureau. What do you make of that?
Yeah, and that's an interpretation that I think is faulty, because, yeah, he raised taxes, but it was also the first Republican Congress in over 40 years, and they actually forced a balanced budget on the president, and to his credit, he went along with it. Now, remember, he vetoed the welfare bill. I had a lot to do with that, with passing that bill. He vetoed it twice, and then he finally agreed and passed it. And of course, that was a great incentive to the economy as well, because people realized we're not just going to keep throwing money down the drain. So it wasn't because he raised taxes that the economy took off. And in the case of George W. Bush,
he also, though, did inherit a pretty tough economy himself.
Well, he did. There's no question about that. And so did, so did President Obama, he says. But the fact of the matter is, what Obama doesn't acknowledge ever is that the Democrats had taken over Congress 2 years before he became president, and they started the big spending programs again. In the Bush administration, he did have problems because we got into the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I think history will show that we were right to get into those, and we've had fairly good results so far from them, although they've been very costly.
I just always think it's important to look at history to then bring us to the present.
Right.
And as we come, back here to 2011, and specifically your role, sir, in this, I know you're a staunch conservative, but you have compromised in the patch. Are you, Senator Hatch, are you able to lead the way and compromise today, given the fact that you are up for re-election and the Tea Party, they're watching your every move, sir?
Well, it looks like this is going to be thrown over to if it passes, it'll be thrown over to the Finance Committee, and of course we're going to have to work it through and see what we can do to do this without raising taxes, but also by doing appropriate cuts that really should happen, and by reforming some of these programs so that they work better, cost less. There'll be less government, less regulation.
I think a lot of Americans would agree with you, but sir, would you be willing to compromise, given the fact you're up for re-election and you got Tea Partiers taking a very close look at you?
Well, the fact of the matter is I've always been willing to work things out, but they got to be worked out on a basis that makes sense, and I think does not raise taxes. We're taxed enough. In fact, the Gang of Six, their approach towards taxation is to lower the rates in 3 different areas, and to lower the corporate rate down into the 20s, and frankly, those are steps in the right direction. I got to give them credit. I want to praise them for the good work they've done. It's a bipartisan work. But like I say, the devil's in the details, because all they've basically given us is an outline. But that's important.
Many of us will be looking to those details and potentially compromise on both sides. Senator Orrin Hatch, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll do my best.
Thank you. And back to